Hey Mary, you're on mute.
Let's do this again, take two.
Okay, I can hear you.
So, last class, we spent looking at one of the essays in 10 steps to advancing college reading. And it was about parenting styles. So if you have not done that, please read that section in 10 steps, and I'll put it up there later and tell you what page number it is, but you can scroll down yourselves too and look for 10 steps about parenting styles. So there was 3 parenting styles. Who was here and remembers what those are?
There's the permissive, the authoritative, and I can't say the third one.
Authoritarian. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good. Hey, oh, I should turn on the thing. So yeah, you almost got it right. As I said earlier, we're going back to.
I'm going to go to my house just for today.
Okay, because
And
we're
then-
doing your essay right now.
Oh, are you guys doing that? Yeah. And then I'll log back on.
Okay.
All right. Have a good day.
Thanks.
Well, sir, did you get the other thing I sent you? too?
Yeah.
Okay.
I
That was from that day you told us to write a paragraph real quick.
responded to it too.
Okay,
Yeah, let me know when you see it, because I
Alright.
asked you a question.
we'll see you.
Okay. Let me turn on the screen. Oh, there's nobody in here. It doesn't matter. Anyway, so it was about the parenting style, excuse me for that. There was permissive, which is easy to remember. And if you recall, the permissive kids didn't necessarily achieve the goals of the psychologist who wrote the article. Does anyone remember a few or one of or two of the goals that you had for children? Like what is successful child rearing? Like how would the child turn out? Did anybody recall some of the characteristics of children who they considered successfully raised by one of these parenting styles? Does anyone remember what they considered like, you know, a strong parent, a good parenting style? It was successful because, anybody recall what that would look like? Like what's, you know, basically like, what are we trying to do when we raise our kids? What kind of, I mean, we do what we can, and kids have their own personalities and so forth, but we have some sort of goals. Oh, I just lost the document. Anybody recall any of those goals? Well, in that case, I think we're going to have to go look at the actual document and skim it, because that's what we do when we don't remember something. We have to go back to the source. And this is even on a test. Don't guess or guess, but then check to see what it was that we wanted to know so we can successfully answer a question, right? So here's the 10 steps. Let me move that over here. Are you guys seeing this now?
Oops, it just disappeared. You were screen.
Yeah, I'm just putting it back up in case. Thank you. All right, so let's scroll down. And please read this if you have not. If people have aspirations to go to college, I just want you to know you'll be doing a lot of reading, way more than we're doing. It's just the honest truth. And you'll be doing a lot of writing papers, longer papers, 6 pages or 10 pages eventually, the end of your semester, probably more. So you want to be really cool about reading a lot. So please read everything I've given you to read. So we have a week off next week, you can catch up. I know people have job conflicts and stuff. So it'd be great to carve some time out of your schedule if possible hopefully not too late at night, to catch up on the reading. And some of these readings are not easy. So you have to read them a couple of times. For sure. So let's see where this is. Skim, skim, skim. I'm a fast reader. Too fast. I told you guys that. Sometimes I have to slow down. But I'm skimming fast. Partly because I've already seen this stuff quite a bit. Child rearing styles. So this is on page 125. So we have, we'll just look at it briefly again. We have the little examples I gave in the beginning as an introduction. This is not the main idea of the whole thing. What's the main idea? Child rearing styles. Titles are often main ideas. Main ideas help you focus in on what's being discussed, the topic. So you can just kind of focus in and stop, thinking about everything else in your life and just be like, okay, now I'm thinking just about child rearing styles. So they have these little things, Gary, Mary, Tim, bursting into tears, whatnot. Here's the main idea. The psychologist in the second paragraph, Diana Baumgrind, set out to discover relationships between different styles of child rearing and the social competence of children. Social competence. That just means how well they deal in social situations, how competent they are in situations that involve other people that are social. And life, I think, is a large part social. School is social, work is social, families are social. So it's a lot of life is social. So social competence. First they have to review the literature when they're doing a professional paper. They have to look at everything else that other people have written about the topic. It's very huge task. That's like a graduate school level thing. You have to look at all the things, review the literature meaning the stuff that's been written professionally, blah, blah, blah. And then we know she used long interviews, standardized testing, observations of kids at home and school. So here are the parenting styles. Authoritative. Someone's very authoritative. They're very clear. They're authoritative. They have a lot of authority about what they're talking about. They are authorities they're authorities in terms of parenting for kids, they're the authority figure. So they are authoritative. Right? Does that make sense? And they have all these things they do here. They confidently guide their children. They're interested in their children. They encourage and love. They have a high expectations for their kids. And they don't say, do as I say, not as I do. They don't do that. They actually try to do the behavior they're asking their kids to do. They also reward and punish. They bestow approval only when the child has earned it. That's pretty intense to me, that I'm not a parent. So you guys, your parents out there know better. Demand achievement, and encourage original thinking. So that's really cool. We still don't know what they're trying to create with these kids. So yes, child rearing, the temperaments that kids bring to it, their own personalities, and then what direction they get out of their parents. So let's see. Still looking for what they want to accomplish. If anybody sees it, let me know. You know, it has to do with them being independent. Do you remember that? Social competence. Let's see if she breaks that down. Here we go. On the basis of her research, I'm on 126, and look at how intense the conversation those two people are having over there. That girl is not going to get away with it, but she's also being engaged, like really talked to. You know, and I suppose she's asking her questions about what she did or what she wants to do. As well as just telling her what to do. The little girl. So socially competent, socially responsible, you know, like. Don't steal, lie, cheat, and all that stuff. Independent children. That's the two things. So anyway, we'll go back to our parenting style responses and look at them both for the content of them, what they're trying to say, and also the grammar. So we'll go over this one again. This is a great one. What type of parenting style did you grow up with? Would you say this was effective? I grew up in an authoritarian home. So the three styles were, we'll write them up here again. Authoritative. As I mentioned, I think those words are too close together, but that's what the psychologist chose. Permissive and authoritarian. Still on the child rearing thing. Let's look at real quick and see the qualities of this real quick. Authoritarian, we kind of talked about authoritarian. Exert firm control, but they also encourage. Tarian, unquestioning obedience from their children and punish them. Permissive, makes few demands, set few rules, and hardly ever punish. Apparently, preschoolers that come in are kind of immature. They're not self-reliant, they're self-controlled and the least exploratory, which is weird. You think that permissive kids would want to explore things and run around and play and do whatever they want, but it's just least exploratory. All right. I grew up in an authoritarian home with my mom being very permissive. It worked to a degree. I respect others like they do me, but I was a loose cannon, do whatever I pleased, and eventually got into big trouble. Due to conflicting authority in the household, I got confused how I act, and I found it tough to find my own personality. This is so good. I'm 25 now, I'm finally learning to like who I am. So the permissive and the authoritarian are opposites. So that sounds kind of tough to navigate. Although the upbringing was tough. I feel like we're okay. Yeah. So one's very permissive, do whatever you want, sweetie. And the other one's like, doing this or else. All right. I'm just putting words into my mouth. Here's Rob. We went over this first paragraph. So we're going to do a little cut and pasting because sometimes if we just write a bunch of stuff out first, it's awesome. Then we have material to work with. You know, if we don't have any material to work with, it's like not having enough ingredients to cook with. We can't make the dish we really want to make, right? We don't have enough salt. How's it going to taste good? So we can move things around if they're out there, but they're not quite in the right order. That's the loveliness of computers, because you can just cut and paste. You don't have to write things over. You have the option to be in Word. All right. Rob is probably tuning in later, but we better keep going. Being raised by a single mom and my grandmother proved to be very unique. So that's the main idea. Mom was naturally authoritative as well as grandmother. So they were both authoritative. My parents got a divorce at 5 years old. That left me with an extremely overprotective mother with a broken heart who put every ounce of time to raising my sisters and I the best she could. That's just also a very beautiful sentence. Thought. Extremely overprotective. The neighborhood I lived in also had lots of influence on its youth. What's wrong with that? How do we end a sentence? There's 3 ways to end a sentence properly. What are they, please? Jason?
Oh, okay.
I know.
What was the question?
Hi, Raven. What are the 3 ways to end a sentence properly?
See.
If you look at any book Or here's 10 steps. Let's look at a sentence in here. As preschoolers, their children are immature, the least self-reliant, the least self-controlled, and the least explanatory. End of sentence. What is that? What's the punctuation? Period. So it's a period, question mark, or if you're excited about something, you use them a lot nowadays. What's the other thing you use? The punctuation to end a sentence. If you're excited, you use it a lot in texting too.
The grammar.
No, like just the period, but another, like another mark,
Oh.
not a question, exclamation point. Great, excellent. Yeah, exclamation point. It's a big word for a tiny thing. So the neighborhood I lived in also had lots of influence on its youth, comma. Is that right? That's the end of that sentence because we have a capital letter starting the new sentence, so we better change that. To what? Cheryl?
To comma.
It's a comma. Can you see that? Guys, how do you end a sentence? It's really basic. You know this. Please tell me.
Period.
Period.
Thank you. Okay. Some were positive and a lot negative. So he's talking about the influence. That might not be clear. To make it super clear, we'll say some of these influences were positive and a lot of negative. Period. Yay. I was made to attend Catholic school, after school programs, and put in youth sports. Let's add a comma here because the GED still likes a comma before the and on a list. So we have one thing, two things, and three things. Period. All this was an attempt to make me go down the right road. Unfortunately, I got it. Let's put a comma after here. So I want you guys also remember that commas are like little pauses, like in music or something, you have a little pause. So it would be like, I could say, unfortunately, I got exposed to gangs, drugs, and blah, or it could be, unfortunately, little pause, I got exposed. Unfortunately, I got exposed, okay? So let's put a comma there in the introduction, like that little word that kind of starts the sentence off. I got exposed to gangs, drugs, and sexual adult influence behind all the scenes. So that is not about our main idea. It's very interesting, but it's not about our main idea, which is about what? What's our main idea of this paragraph?
Parenting style.
Yeah. Yeah, his own parenting style. Thank you. And so we'll keep this here, but we might move this because kind of off topic right now. He wants to go into that, but maybe go into it later and change the main idea a little bit. So we're going to just put it down here and see where we want to put it later. Okay. Okay, and before the age of 10, that doesn't sound quite like a sentence, does it? There's no subject and no verb. So before, out the and, we don't have the author here, we could get his permission, but we'll take out the and turn that into a little introduction with a comma, okay? Before the age of 10, my mother, so you hear me pause, yelled a lot and was demanding when laying down the rules. So now we're going on with our main idea of the parenting style, our flow. She knew about local influence and despised letting me wear gangster affiliated attire. There's a spelling problem in there.
I think it was meant to say where.
How do you want me to spell it?
Like WEAR.
She despised it. That's intense. Gangster affiliated attire. Okay, I'm gonna leave that capitalized. It's not really a name, but we'll leave it because he liked it. Things, but I will not capitalize that. I'm gonna put what is maybe new punctuation to some of this. It's control dash. It's called an M dash. It's kind of like when you make a nice list, get a little break like that. It should look bigger when it prints. It's control dash. Things like Dickie khaki pants. Slip
Khaki.
khaki. Okay, how do you spell khaki, somebody?
I'm not sure.
Khaki, is that right? Khaki?
K-H. I think the H is in the, behind the first K.
Okay.
Yeah.
Khaki pants. So we'll leave that capital there. I don't know. That's a brand, I guess, so it should be capitalized. Slicked back hair, don't want to capital there. And do we want to capitalize the M in my?
No.
Did I hear a no? No. Because that's not a new sentence and it's not a name. Okay?
Okay.
And my shirt buttoned all the way to the top like a cholo or Mexican street criminal. Okay, so cholo. Sometimes when we're using Spanish words, although this word or other words with other languages, we put them in italics. Cholo's pretty common now, I think. I don't know,
Okay.
pretty familiar, but I don't know, Mexican street criminal. So I think I'm gonna have to. It's just not a name. It's just a type of person. It's not a name of a person. I'm gonna have to follow the rules here. I'm gonna have to, yeah, change it. It's not, those aren't really names. People like to capitalize just to draw attention to a word, but it's not a name, right? Or Mexican is, we have to capitalize that. That's the name of a country or a something from a country. Interesting. So we got to imagine this guy, our student friend. Dickie khaki pants, slick back hair. Dickie. Unless that's brand, the brand is like Dickie khaki pants, but if the brand is just Dickie, I think we'll have to go like that. It's not happy.
Someone put khaki word in the chat.
No good, thanks.
A-H-A-K-I.
Okay. How do you spell it?
Eliminate that first A.
Oh, khaki. Okay. Dickie khaki pants. So is everybody clear that if you want to show that something's a name, like my name, Mary Ann Capehart, if I didn't capitalize the C, that would just be like, not too cool, right? It wouldn't look like a name anymore. But if it's not a name or the beginning of a sentence, you don't want to capitalize it. Or the name, you know, like even the name of a country, it should be capitalized, or a state. Like you wouldn't want to say Arizona with a small a, right? Because that's a name. They also call them proper nouns. And so we want to do that, you know, do that properly. And that kind of thing, of course, is on the language arts part of the GED. But our goal is not just to pass the GED, it's also to have great grammar. And will love us, our bosses. We have to write anything. If you're in marketing, lots of fields, you need to write well. Cool. She knew about the local influence, despise, that's a nice strong word, letting me wear gangster affiliator attire, things like khaki pants, slicked back hair, and my shirt. I'm going to put a comma before the end on the list, all buttoned all the way up to the top like a cholo or Mexican street criminal. Very cool. Very descriptive, lots of good detail. That makes writing interesting to people because it gives them a visual. Now we can kind of see this kid, right? But then you have like really long baggy shorts. Isn't that the cholo style? I know in LA, and then like the white socks. Do you know, Kixon? That's how it was back in a little while ago. It was like you wear these really big baggy black shorts and then I'm because I'm not a Joe. And then nowhere near. And then white socks and like black shoes. Maybe that was like an LA thing. We'll have to ask the author when he gets online. If that's what he was talking about. Dicky khaki. Well, someone go look up Dicky khaki pants.
I think khaki is just like a color.
Khaki is like a color, but what about Dicky?
Oh, that's like a brand.
Can you look them up and give us a visual?
I like work pants, really. I used to wear them back in the.
Oh, they're work pants? You
Yeah.
don't do it. Are they long or short?
It depends on how you buy them. They can fit like regular pants, or they can fit like really baggy.
But they're not like shorts.
You can buy them in shorts or pants.
Okay.
There's two brands.
Oops. I'll forget it. All right, we can look later. Somehow I can't type properly enough to do that. Cool, okay. Some kids at my elementary school were dressed like that. It appealed to me, every bit of it, love that. Down to the dark glasses or mad doggers, as they called them. That's not a real sentence. Sometimes writers break the rules just because it's just such a good phrase. But we can't do that here. It appealed to me, every bit of it. So here's our subject verb. So we'll put another, oops, we'll put another M dash. And keep the sentence going. We don't want to stop it with a capital. It appealed to me, every bit of it, down to the dark sunglasses or mad doggers, as they call them. So we lost our exclamation point. I would leave this if this was like going to go in a magazine or something. They wouldn't care about breaking the rules because it sounded so good, but we fixed it. In front. Okay, that's a lot of information and it's about the clothes, right? Basically, the style. Let's put a new paragraph.
Marianne, Robert is joining now, the author.
Okay, thanks. Okay, Robert, so we've done a little trimming on your paragraph. Please join in. So we left the first one like we had last. We moved the social stuff down here, the influence of the neighborhood. And then we kept going. We just made a few little tweaks with the capitalization. Because even though I know you're trying to draw attention to certain words using capitalization, that's not really like proper. So we took out the capitals for gangster, affiliated, attire. Because it's not a name, it's just a description. And then Dicky we left because that's a brand, that's a name of a brand. And like that, I put cholo in italics because it's a Spanish word. Mexican street criminal, that's not a name, that's a type of person. Cool. And then we went, loved this sentence, it appealed to me, every bit of it. Not really correct, so I kept it going, even though this is a sentence. So I made a little dash here so we can keep going, keep it in the same sentence, okay? M dash, they're called in publishing, that's control. I'm sorry, option, or on the Mac, it's the, I guess the Microsoft key with the Windows. Dash. And it should print big, so it kind of separates the word. What is that button called? Is that Microsoft button? The one, the Windows? Computer guys, girls. Okay. Anybody know? It's not spelled right. Microsoft is the name of the company, so it's capitalized. Well, So excellent. Look how detailed that is. We also mentioned there's so many good details in there that it really helps you visualize the story and it gives us a great visual and it's fun and it's, good for the reader. We got the look, although we weren't sure if Dickie pants were worn long or short. So I was talking about LA, how it's the big black shorts and the white socks. I don't know if it's the big baggy black shorts. Anyway, we can discuss later. And we had a new, this was up here before. So we moved it down. That's enough. That's enough for one paragraph. Time to move down and just give people slight breath. And then we say, okay, now we have a slightly different topic. We're off the kind of local influence of the gangs in the neighborhood and how it looked, how kids dressed. I said, we don't need a cap here, do we? Do we need a cap on front? No. In front of my mom, I was her little boy. So does anyone here where it might be nice to have a pause, and a pause is a comma? Where would it nice to have a pause when we're reading? Instead of in front of my mom, I was her little boy, what would we do?
After mom.
Yeah, it's good, Cheryl. I think that makes it nice. In front of my mom, I was her little boy. It's almost like I'm taking a little breath. But when, okay, subject verb, I was her little boy. Off the sentence with what? Jason, how do we stop this sentence?
Period.
Yeah, use a period. In front of her mom, in front of my mom, I was her little boy. But when in front of my cousins and hanging at school or walking home with friends, I had a different mind frame. Negative. All right, that's excellent. Self-reflection, obviously, the author has thought about this time of his life enough and come to realizations that that mind frame was negative. Maybe you knew it at the time too. It's like, I hate everything. But at least, yeah, now he's characterizing that mindset, that mind frame is negative. Very mature. Cool. What? Regarding, I had in front of my cousin, had a different mind frame, negative. Unfortunately, there's not a name. Okay. Mom worked as a typist as a workman's comp firm. Now, workman's comp is the name of a government program. I mean, officially it'd be compensation, but we'll leave it like that. Workman's comp firm as a senior in high school. If this was Flagstaff High School or something, we would make it cap, but it's not part of the name. So we'll just put plain high school. His mom was a senior. Need some input from the author here. Is the author here? Chat us, author. Was the mom, your mom worked as a typist as a senior, or was that you?
Hello?
Hi.
Hey, sorry, Mary. I was in the restroom. I got some things going on. What was your question in reference to?
We're on the third paragraph regarding your mom's job as a typist.
Yeah, she worked as a typist. She's about to retire from the same job. And
Was she a senior in high school, or were you a senior in high school?
No, she was a senior in high school.
Okay, so she was a senior in high school. Good. My grandmother watched us in the meantime. They demanded we fish our food.
It's supposed to say finish.
Okay. I always think, yeah, that's cool. Go out and fish your food. Pick our clothes up, so we don't want a capital there. Ways up. and never, I mean, never talk back. Cool. So. Do you hear it pause? Let me read it again and tell me where the pause is that's missing a comma, please. They demanded we finish our food, pick our toys, our clothes and toys up, and never, I mean, never talk back. I'll read it one more time. They demanded we finish our food, pick our clothes and toys up, and never, I mean, never talk back. Where do you want me to put this? The next paragraph there, I mean, next comma. Anybody hear that pause?
Yeah.
One more time. After what?
After close.
No. My grandmother watched us in the meantime. Demanded we finish our food, pick up our clothes. Oh yeah, we do need one there, sorry. In front of an and on a list. Thank you. Finish our food, I'm gonna put pick up our clothes here. It just seems more of a better flow. Pick up our clothes and toys and never, I mean, never. So. Talk back, I mean, never, talk back. Otherwise, it's going to be, and never, I mean, never talk back. See how it's better with the comma? Where do I put it, Rob?
After talk back and erase the periods,
No, let's put a comma here. So
talk back period.
instead of saying, I mean, never talk back, you're saying, and never, I mean, never talk back. See how the pause is great before the talk back? I mean, never talk back. Read it over later and see if you agree with me. Instead of saying, I'll read it one more time, you guys. It's pretty subtle. They demanded we finish our food, pick up our clothes and toys, and never, I mean, never talk back. Instead of saying, and toys, and never, I mean, never talk back. See how that second comma makes it sound cool? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. That's it. We don't want these dots. I'm sorry. That's the artist in our writer, and we can't have that here. Oh. Okay, we'll just keep going. Or grandpa's great grandpa's leather strap hanging in the wall was to our backside. So if I came in the room and said, or great grandpa's leather strap hanging on the wall was to our backside, you'd be like, wait, what? Or what? So a sentence has to be a complete idea. So we'll join this to the previous sentence. How are we doing on this? Are we learning? Is this helping? Is this a good process?
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me what's misspelled in that part of the sentence. There's two things we need to fix. One's a possessive and one's just not right. It's a homonym, it's called. What's a possessive, please? Grandpa's, yeah, that's his strap. You've got the S there, just missing the apostrophe. And what's misspelled? It's a proper word, but it's not the right word for this. What is it? Last part of the sentence here.
2,
Yes, thank you. What should it be?
just 1 O.
Thank you. Love it. Very visual. Leather strap hanging on the wall. That nice detail of seeing it on the wall. It's nice. But in my own mind, I think, hey, Rob, do you want a new paragraph here? Look, it's a pretty chunky paragraph. Should we break it up?
Yeah, we should break it up. It's like real elongated. I actually edited this whole thing last Friday. Apparently I didn't send you the updated copy though.
Okay, we'll compare them at some point, what you did and what we're doing now.
Okay, yeah, that's good. I know I like I like way overshot the finish line, so.
Well, that's what I was saying before you got on, which is like, it's better to have more stuff than less.
Right,
Stuff to work with, you can always trim. But if you don't have anything to trim, it's not.
Eh.
Like you don't have enough ingredients to cook with, you know?
Oh.
It's good to overwrite, it's excellent to overwrite, but you do have to take the time to trim.
right.
So this is gonna be kind of an intense transition, let's see. Oh, inside my mind, I respected my mother, so that's, we'll just put that. And grandmother. That's not actually her name. Unless you say grandmother as a name, but mother's not a name, you know, anyway, it's not a name here. As much as I could, but in my own mind, I was too cool for an authority guy destined for a criminal life. Where's a good place for a comma in that last sentence of that paragraph?
After
What?
guy,
No. That's just, it'll just flow through. You don't need to pause there. Earlier, where? Read it out loud to me, Rob.
but in my own mind, I was too cool for an authority guy. Destined for a criminal life.
Oh, so you
I
do,
guess, too cool for an authority guy, maybe that should be in parentheses.
no, I'll put that back in, because you seem to like to pause there, but there's another, you paused earlier. Did anyone catch it? You paused earlier. Read it again, please.
But in my own mind, I was too cool for an authority guy, destined for a criminal life.
Did you hear it?
Yeah,
Where? Where was the pause?
after guy.
Yeah, there's another one though.
Um,
Time.
Probably cool.
No,
Louder. Viola.
listen up. This is training your ear, and this helps you with comments. Read it one more time, Rob.
But in my own mind, I was too cool
Okay.
for,
Did you hear that pause? But in
Oh,
my own
yeah.
mind.
After mine.
Yeah, and thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt. That's a little introductory phrase. Here's our main subject verb, I was. But in my own mind, hear me? Like a little inhale. But in my own mind, it's like music, you know, you have a little, I don't know what they're called. Rest. Let's try this right here. We're done with the description of their authority. Let's see. They demand that we finish our food, pick up our clothes and toys. Oh, I see what this is, a joint thing. I'm not going to get into that with you guys. Pick up our toys and clothes. And never, I mean never, talk back. Our great-grandfather's, great-grandpa's leather strap hanging on the walls to our backside. Inside my mind, it's a good place to start a new paragraph, y'all. Inside my mind, I respected my mother. It's a little bit different topic. First, we had sort of the punishment problem. I respected my mother and grandmother as much as I could, but in my own mind, I was too cool for an authority guy, destined for a criminal life. Too cool for an authority guy? Or too
I got a
cool-
suggestion, instead of bringing up mine twice, I guess the second part of that would be, but in reality, I was too cool for an authority guy destined for a criminal life.
No.
Because inside my mind, I respected my grandmother and mom as much as I could, but
Oh,
in actuality, maybe
okay.
I felt I was too cool for
Okay.
authority. Maybe we could rearrange that whole sentence.
I don't think you were too cool for an authority guy. You were. You
I was a
too
wanna, I
cool
was a
as
wannabe for sure.
As an authority guy. The authority guy was too cool. Not for, you weren't too cool for an authority guy. You were just perfectly cool for an authority guy. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, too cool to follow authority.
Too cool as an authority guy. I'm just gonna do this. Who was? You know, you can do this stuff endlessly once you start changing things, but I'm gonna go crazy. And also, yeah, some people over edit and then the flow, the spontaneous thing that they wrote gets lost. So be careful not to over edit, okay? Because you actually had a good, it sounds like you know, it sounds like the author, which is really good. Okay, in my mind, in my mind, do you hear me pause? In my mind, I respected my mother and grandmother as much as I could, but in actuality, I was too cool. An authority guy who was destined for a criminal life. And we gotta go, we gotta chill out here because it's gonna get to be too much. But in actuality, maybe this is a little corny, leave it like that. But in actuality, this authority guy was too cool. Leave it like that for now. We'll join this paragraph here. My father was in prison and my mom's dad died before him. Possessive, please. Possessive. Where is it? You see me correcting his caps, right, guys? Where's the possessive in that sentence?
My,
Yes, but that's your mom, but your mom has somebody too. So we need to make that possessive, yes, her dad. My mom's dad. Where do I put the apostrophe? Cheryl? I'm picking on Cheryl. I'm not picking on Cheryl. She's participating. Virginia, where do I put the apostrophe to make it possessive?
Between the M and the S.
Yeah. My mom's dad. Before I met him. That was a typical scenario. And we don't want to stop there because loving mothers and grandmothers, but no positive role model has no verb. If I came and said loving mothers and grandmother, but no positive male role models, you don't know what you're talking, what reference, what are we referring to? But if you said that was a typical scenario, loving mothers and grandmothers, let's make that plural too, but no positive male role models. It's very insightful. It's a very, very insightful sentence. Though I'm changing these caps, though many prayers, consequences, and life lessons through eventually wise up,
wised, W-I-S-E-D.
wised up, and later more than sooner, moms and grandmas' life lessons came first circle and picked in. Awesome. I don't think that's, we can capitalize that. It's not really a name. Capitalize something to draw attention to it. You can get away with that with advertising and other things, but for sort of proper language, you can't just capitalize kind of randomly. Cool. Very cool. Prayers, consequences, and life lessons. Here, pause there. Eventually I wised up, and later more than sooner. That's not a typical way of saying that, but leave that for now. Usually you say sooner rather than later, but we'll leave that. And that's a good place to end that sentence. None of these, they call them comma splices. Don't comma splice me. Give me complete sentences. Comma splice when you're putting things together with a comma instead of a period. Moms and grandma's life lessons. Oops, I'm wrong. I'm sorry. Sooner than later, moms and grandma's life lessons came full circle and kicked in. Authoritative they are and respectful rules and life I remain. Lovely. I hear a pause here. I think we need to train our ears better to hear these pauses. So I'll read it both ways. And I don't want to beat a dead horse, but start to kind of hear the pauses, please. Authoritative they are and respectful to rules and life. I'm sorry. Authoritative they are and respectful to rules and lives, I will remain. Or authoritative they are and respectful to rules and lives, I will remain. You decide, Rob. I'm actually not feeling it. Authoritative they are and respectful to rules and life are warming. Let's do this. Okay. Okay, so now we have this neighborhood thing. Do we need it? Maybe we can put it right here.
Yeah, that bottom paragraph I didn't need. Okay, that's right.
We're talking about the kids in your elementary school and stuff. Let's see if it fits in here. Some kids in my house dressed like that appeal to me every bit of it, down to the dark sunglasses. The neighborhood I lived. Okay, how about some word, like a joining word, an addition word? In short, or obviously, or evidently, or that we can open our list of those words. In the signal words. And see if we can find a cool word. You see anything on the linker list that would help join those two ideas? Because you got very detailed about the close, and you're kind of opening up, talking about the neighborhood influences. So the neighborhood influenced your behavior and the kids, it's the elementary school kids. See anything here? Apparently, or certainly, or I don't know, some people don't like these words.
Clever.
However, no, that means the opposite. So we're kind of talking about the same thing, right? Neighborhood influences to go to gang and the kids dressing like gang members. So we wouldn't want to have the opposite, the contrast. We'd want something that, like, how about positive fact, or let's see. Therefore, apparently, consequently, hence, thus, for this reason. Undoubtedly, how about that? Rob, how about undoubtedly?
Undoubtedly. Yeah, that sounds good.
That's a bit highfalutin, but that's okay. Undoubtedly. I picked it for you just to the.
No, that's fine. I mean, we're learning here, so.
So here's the kids dressing and getting all gangy, and then you say undoubtedly the neighborhood I lived in also had lots of incidents. I don't think you need also had lots of because undoubtedly kind of emphasizes that. Had lots of influence on its youth. Some of these influences were positive and a lot negative. A lot of negative. Let's just do a lot negative. Positive and negative. I was made to attend Catholic school, after school programs, and put in youth sports. All this was an attempt to make me go down the right road. Here's another one of these kind of words that you use. A good linker. Unfortunately, got exposed to gangs, drugs, and sexual influence, all behind the scenes. Okay, cool. So that's a good stopping point there. I think it's very close to being finished. You could polish, but as I said, there's revising where you change the meaning a little bit, fix it up. There's editing where you fix the grammar. Then there's polishing. You just give it like a last look over. So you let it sit in the desk drawer, bring it out tomorrow and give it a last look over. And that's the beginning of your memoir. I'm thinking.
Memoirs.
Memoirs are, yeah, we know what these are. It's a memoir. It has the root word memory in it. So
Okay,
yeah, it's people that they write the story of their lives.
that makes sense.
All right. So let's go back to this list and then we'll take a break. Where's our list? This is hand typed. Where's that dang list? It disappeared. Let me open it up again. So if you see in the class materials, it's signal words. This is like the whole thing of English on here. It says structural elements of English, right? It has like all the different parts of a sentence on here. And a little comma words down here. And then we got all these linkers. So linkers kind of are a bit sophisticated, which is good. You know, sometimes you want to have a little bit of maybe a little sophistication or rhetoric. Rhetoric is like speech making. You want to sound like you're kind of an authority making a speech. Sometimes you don't. If you look at Sherman Alexie's writing, who I kind of take as a role model because it's so fresh and like real and fun. Look and see if you use these kind of fancy words. Rob, if you could do that at some point, or maybe right now during the break, if you have it with you.
Yeah, I can, yeah, I could take a look at the last thing that I read, so,
Yeah, see if he uses these kind of fancy words.
okay,
Or avoids them, because people have different opinions about them, but in GED essays, they're great. So you say like, for example, that just helps the reader know you're giving supporting evidence to your main idea. It makes it super clear. Okay, and then we had our adding addition words, or furthermore, in addition, moreover, for adding, and then we have, when you're talking about something, you say first, blah, 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 second, or, and then finally, or, you know, so things like that. Ultimately is a good one. It means kind of in the last resort, to the last look, ultimately. So those are cool words. And we have them down here too, kind of repetitive. I like the first one because it's hand typed. Just love that. I love the typewriter font. It's personal though. Time order. You know, here's also adding, you know, first, second, third. Likewise, similarly. Right, and then as you were mentioning, I forget who that was it Cheryl? Saying contrast. So if you want to show something, blah, 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 blah. But on the other hand, my sister was a perfect straight A student, Angel, who never did anything wrong. You know, that's showing contrast. So you say, on the other hand, or however, some of the kids went on the straight and narrow, whatever. So you're showing contrast. We know contrast and comparison. Comparisons when you're showing things that are the same. Contrast is when you're showing something different. All right, so these here we get, you know, again, for example, try to use those in your writing just to get used to them because they're really helpful for the reader. Consequently, that's also one we might have, no, that wouldn't work in the essay we just did. Well, it might. Consequently is good. We'd have to check it. In conclusion, that helps the reader know you're getting ready to wind down. Very helpful. Okay, or to conclude, you know, and that's a nice, you don't want to just stop an essay. It's nice to have a little ending. And this one that we just worked on might need a little ending. In short, blah, blah, blah. All right, great, guys, good work. I know it's pretty painstaking, but it's worth it. That's how you edit. All right, we will see you in 10 minutes. What time is it? We'll see you at 11 after.
Next week is on the basics. Oh, this was a trick with. That really true.
I'm not. from-
Oh, okay, yeah, have like little cracks almost.
Yeah, it's like, I think it's kind of a bluish.
Yeah.
All right, give me a few more minutes. I'm gonna fix something up here before we get back. I just want to tell everybody, I would love, please, to get some writing from you all. And we can work on it like we did with Rob's. It doesn't have to be as long. We have gotten some great stuff. I think we've gone over everybody's. If you think I've missed yours, let me know. So let me just do something real quick here. Technical issue. I'll be right there. Okay, so we're going to work on something together. We have a break next week. And after that, we have a slightly different format, but we'll be telling you more about that later in the week. So we'll be working on some specialized instruction for you guys regarding things that you really need to be successful in the GED, like stuff that students generally have a hard time with in the different subject areas. And so, and be helping you guys take the GED ready test, and then we'll be helping you figure out what that test tells you, like what you need to work on. So I'm going to be focusing a little bit on technology as our theme. And we'll be getting probably into some, well, we will be getting into things about artificial intelligence, just because that's such a hot topic right now. And it's become, a big part of our future. So it's a high technology, right, where machines are taught to sort of imitate how humans think and solve problems. Artificial intelligence, robots, they don't always have bodies, but there are robots too that know enough now to clear tables at the Golden Corral. I heard in Tucson that the robots with this open area in their body, I guess you want to call it, like say, please put your dishes in here, and then you put your dishes in the robot, and then it like, rolls them back to the kitchen. So that is artificial intelligence, so that guy who was doing that before probably doesn't have his job, but that's the future. So I wanted you guys to help me today, please, create a chart. So we're gonna do a little bit, which can be considered social studies, But these things overlap a lot. Literature on the GED is 1/3 fiction and poetry, and the other 2/3 are like prose or just informative and different kinds of articles. They're not stories. So this is like that. This is from a book that we've been reading in the social studies class, but this is like the kind of hardcore version of the book. We've been reading youth history of the United. What's it called? People's History of the United States, People's Youth's History, I forget. There's 2 versions of the book. I'll look in a second. There's the sort of youth edition and there's the adult edition. And the adult edition and the youth edition go together very well. They're really well done. But the adult edition is a little harder to read, has more detail. It's longer chapters. Pretty famous book, taught in a lot of colleges. Howard Zinn is a very opinionated guy. So he kind of tends to put that out there in really strong language. I think some people don't like that, but that's kind of how he gets across his message that for history, we need to think about not just like the superstars and the kings and the generals and all that, but we need to think about what was happening to the people at the time, like the big mass of people, right? The populace. We need to know what happened, what they were going through, not just like the superstars and the presidents and that. So there's on the class materials, there's a chapter from the Howard Zinn book about robber barons. Robber barons is a name that's commonly given to some of these guys who made big bucks at the beginning of the 19th century. Carnegie and Rockefeller and Standard Oil and some of these at the time companies that built railroads and just made like megabucks. So you see like Carnegie libraries all over the country because Carnegie gave tons of money after he made all that money, he gave a lot of it away. So anyway, we got some people with some big bucks back then, and a lot of people working for like not a lot of money, which is why they call them robber barons. And people building the railroads for like not very much money. So it's kind of like today we have some super rich, uber rich people, and we have a lot of people struggling and not making a lot of money. So I'm kind of drawing a comparison between our time and this time. And they called it the Gilded Age because people had like fancy homes, with gilded frames and fine art and silver and all sorts of riches. And now we have some people who even have enough money to like, hire, create spaceships so they can go places, and have islands and airplanes and private jets and private boats. And, so there's a lot of this sort of super uber rich, and then a lot of other people struggling. So you can decide for yourself if you think that's a valid comparison between this time and that time. I mean, in our time, is it similar where there's some uber rich and then a lot of people struggling? But meanwhile, I wanted to emphasize the technology changes that happened then. And then we can talk about the technology changes that are happening now with, in part, the high-end computer stuff, okay? That's really moving very rapidly. We've already gone from like TV to cable TV to streaming in a pretty short amount of time. Those are really different technologies. A little army of tech guys and girls working away, programming things to make all these apps, right? Robotics, factories have robots doing very intricate work and so forth like that. So this whole artificial intelligence thing, AI, is coming to a head right now. So it's interesting to look at. But right now, I need you guys to help me create a chart. So think we can do it together, or we can have one of the students do a table in Word, and then we can tell them what to put in it. Does anyone want to volunteer to do a table in Word? And I think you can share your screen. That's something we'd have to check. Maybe we'll have them do that when we're editing this table. And let me see. Jason, can you share your screen in Zoom, and we'll see if like students can share the screen. Just anything you can, even just your desktop. I'll stop my share. Yeah, I'm not sure the settings have that. Let me see. One participant, oh, multiple participants. Try it again now. Can you share your screen? See the green button, share screen? On the Zoom? Yeah, who wants to do that? Rob, could you do this? I'm asking him because, or anyone else who's in the computer class, can you open a Word document and make a table? Because I'm gonna have to open the other document. Is that possible? Or is anyone who wants to volunteer to make a table in Word? Any takers? It's just insert table. It's not that big of a deal. Here, I'll share how you do that. You just go to insert. And then table, we need 2 columns. All right, well, I have this one in case no one could do that at home. And then what we're going to open the document. That I was speaking of, it's in our class materials. And thanks to Mrs. Hanson, I was able to link it directly to the document. You don't have to go looking for it. But you do have to flip it around. I hope I can do it. Doesn't want me to flip it around. Well,
Miriam, what are you trying to do?
I have a PDF of this document, but it needs to be flipped. It's upside down. It's a PDF. It doesn't seem to.
Unless you have gotten the them to open up the PDF editor version. I don't think you can flip it.
Oh, wait. Yay, they do have it in this computer. Awesome.
Okay, then.
Okay, so I'm gonna put this over here. You can all see it, and it's kind of funky. I'm sorry about that. Doesn't look too good, but we can read it. Read it together. Okay, so this is a book by Howard Zinn, famous historian. Robber Barons and Rebels. So we're going to read it until I can show you what I wanted to use for the chart. As I said, this is a time when technology changed a lot really fast as it is now. That's very different technology, not computer oriented. So let's read this, please. Who wants to read the first paragraph, please? Reagan? Are you capable of reading this on your computer? Unmuted?
Did you call me?
Yes, could you read the first paragraph that we're looking at today?
Yeah.
Thanks.
In the year 1877, the signals were given for the rest of the century. The blacks would be put back. The strikes of white workers would not be tolerated. The industrial and political elites of North and South would take hold of the country and organize the greatest march of economic growth in the human history. They would do it with the aid of and at the expense of Black labor, white labor, Chinese labor, European immigration labor, female labor, rewarding workers differently by race, sex, national origin, and social class in such a way as to create separate levels of oppression. A skillful terracing to stabilize the pyramid of wealth.
Excellent. So he's talking about how, kind of what I was saying, that some people are designing all these businesses and other people are doing all the work. Being, in his opinion, being controlled to make the most money. So for the owners of these businesses, right? So terracing is putting things on levels. So like that, those are terraces. Can you see those? So it's just a way, it's like a visual of how different people are on different levels of pay. So that's kind of, Chinese people back then worked on the railroads a lot. They didn't have the opportunity to buy property. There was laws that discriminated between different groups. So back to that, thank you. What is this word ELITE? Elite. What does that mean, anybody? Sit up, somebody. The elites, it says, let's look at the sentence. Can you look up, Jason? Or anybody?
Elites would mean like the upper class, like those with money, those financially stable.
Yeah, and had a lot of power. Yeah, so good. Thanks. We didn't read the tractor before this, but it was about strikes, workers striking. Now we have the Hollywood writers strike, where writers are striking for more money. And also that kind of ties into our AI theme, because some of the shows are being written or like altered by machines, by artificial intelligence, and the writers are not happy about that. Anyway, we'll talk about that when we get back from the break. And I'm sure you guys know lots of examples of high-end technology. We always use high. We're all using it right now, using some pretty high-tech technology, I think. I think this is pretty high-tech, if you ask me. But anyway, here it says, the industrial and political elites of North and South would take hold of the country and organize the greatest march of economic growth in human history. That's something that Howard Zinn loves to do, is make these grand statements. Is it the greatest march of economic growth in human history? That would be a very hard question to research. He also said in our social studies class that America had the worst racism in the world. That's also a very hard statement to verify, because in South Africa, it was apartheid. You couldn't even walk around without a pass if you were Black. So how do you compare those things? But meanwhile, I trust him as an historian to not put false information in here. He just might draw some pretty crazy conclusions. The greatest march of economic growth. Well, okay, let's check it out. Let's check it out. Who wants to read next? Tonya? Just calling on people. If you want to read, go ahead. Who wants to read, please?
I can read.
Thank you.
Mhm. Between the Civil War and 1900, steam and electricity replaced human muscle, iron replaced wood, and steel replaced iron. Before the Bessemer process, iron was hardened into steel at the rate of 3 to 5 tons a day. Now the same amount could be processed in 15 minutes. Machines could now drive steel tools, oil could lubricate machines and light homes, streets, factories. People and goods could move by railroad propelled by steam long steel rails. By 1900, there were 193,000 miles of railroad. The telephone, the typewriter, and the adding machine speeded up the work of business.
Thank you.
Machines changed farming. Before the Civil War, it took 61 hours of labor
Mhm.
to produce an acre of wheat. By 1900, it took 3 hours, 19 minutes. Manufactured ice enabled the transport of food over long distances, and the industry of meat packing was born.
Thank you. LaToya,
Yeah.
could you read for us next? We got here steam drove textile. I think we're having some sound issues. Let me read, and then if anyone,
Is that the right one?
yeah, you're kind of wobbling, but try it again. That's the right one. All right, I think your sound isn't coming through, so let me read this, and Tashinia, you can read next. I got some extra pages in here, but it's okay. Steam drove textile mill spindles. It drove sewing machines. It came from coal. Pneumatic drills now drill deeper into the earth for coal. In 1860, 14 million tons of coal were mined. By 1884, it was 100 million tons. More coal meant more steel, because coal furnaces converted iron into steel. By 1880, 1 million tons of steel were being produced. By 1910, 25 million tons. By now, electricity was beginning to replace steam. Electrical wire needed copper. of which 30,000 tons were produced in 1880 and 500,000 tons by 1910. So you see this huge growth.
Yes.
And we'll just finish this column. Sheena, can we hear you?
Sorry, my signal went out.
Okay. I'll keep reading. Lauren, unless you want to read. Okay, please respond, Lauren, by chat. And we know you're there. To accomplish all this required ingenious inventors of new processes and new machines, clever organizers and administrators of new corporations, a country rich with land and minerals, and a huge supply of human beings to do backbreaking and helpful and dangerous work. Immigrants would come from Europe and China to make the new labor force. Farmers unable to buy new machinery or pay the new railroad rates would move in the cities. By 1860 and 1914, New York grew from 850,000 to 4 million. That's huge. Chicago from 110,000 to 2 million. Philadelphia from 650,000 to 1.5 million. So you see a lot of people are moving into the cities. And then the chapter gets into some of these guys who were running the show here, okay? And we're not going to read all this chapter, obviously, but we're going to read just enough to find out who these high rollers were. Jason, you want to read?
Sure, yeah.
We are on page 180, and we're starting with, in some cases, the inventor.
Some cases, the inventor himself became the organizer of businesses, like Thomas Edison, the inventor of electrical devices. In other cases, the businessman compiled with other people's inventions, like Gustavus Swift, a Chicago who put together the high-school railway car with school warehouse to make the first national meatpacking company in 1885. James Duke used the new cigarette rolling machine that could roll, paste, and cut tubes of tobacco into 100,000 cigarettes a day. In 1890, he combined the 4 biggest cigarette producers to form the American Tobacco.
All this growth, right? And these inventions, they're changing everything, making the world go a lot faster, making a lot of new products. And availability for meat, people used to, do their own meat and put it in their own little places outside where you keep meat cold. I forget what those are called, little buildings for meat storage. But this is like they've brought the meat to you. Latonya, you want to try with the next one?
Yes.
Thank you.
While some multimillionaires started in poverty, most did not. A study of the origins of 303 textile, railroad, and steel executives of the 1870s showed that 90% came from middle or upper class families. The Horatio Alger stories of rags to riches were true for a few men, but mostly a myth, and a useful myth for control.
Thank you. Yeah, he's a famous guy, wrote about, you just have to have the determination and you can do anything. It's the American dream. You could go from rags to riches. Howard Zinn here is saying he thinks that was mostly a myth, that they encourage people to just keep working hard and you'll be able to get rich. It didn't happen that often. It was kind of like maybe a pipe dream, but yeah, that's a very common American thing. A lot of people come here from other countries too, to go from rags to riches. And that's part of our American dream. Thank you. Why don't you read one more while you're at it? Ms. Payson. Go ahead.
While some multimillionaires started in
Or,
poverty.
we did that one.
Most of the fortune building was done legally with the collaboration of the government and the courts. Sometimes the collaboration had to be paid for. Thomas Edison promised New Jersey politicians 1,000 each in return for favorable legislation. Daniel Drew and Jay Gold spent 1 million to bribe New York legislators to legalize their issue of 8 million in water stock. Stock that not representing real value on the Erie Railroad.
Thank you. So the railroad was often also a really big deal. Because it moved a lot of goods around. Latonia,
Yes,
go ahead, if you could read the next one.
the first transcontinental railroad was built with blood, sweat, politics, and thievery.
Thievery.
Out of the meeting, thievery, sorry, out of the meeting of the Union Pacific and Central Pacific Railroads. The Central Pacific started on the west coast going east. It spent 200,000 in Washington on bribes to get 9 million acres of free land and 24 million in bonds, and paid 79 million, an overpayment of 36 million to a construction company which really was its own. The construction was done by 3,000 Irish and 10,000 Chinese over a period of 4 years, working for $1 or $2 a day.
So you see there's some kind of bribery and corruption going on here. And the whole thing about grabbing land for the railroads is a very interesting Western story. Okay, I'll read. The Union Pacific in Nebraska started in Nebraska going west. It had been given 12 million acres of free land. And I guess you would imagine some of that belonged to tribes. And 27 million in government bonds. Bonds are like when people pay into bonds and then they use them for projects and then they pay the people back. But the government holds the bond. It created the Credit Mobilier Company and gave them 94 million for construction when the actual cost was 44 million. Yikes. Shares were sold cheaply to congressmen to prevent investigation. This was the suggestion of Massachusetts Congressman Oakes Ames, a shovel manufacturer and director of Credit Mobilier, who said there was no difficulty in getting men to look after their own property. The Union Pacific, so the congressmen were like, yeah, we'll pass that law because we've invested in this railroad. We want to see it happen. The Union Pacific used 20,000 workers, war veterans and Irish immigrants who laid 5 miles of track a day and died by the hundreds in the heat, the cold, and the battles with Indians opposing the invasion of their territory. Quite a story. Both railroads used longer twisting routes to get subsidies from towns they went through. In 1869, amid speeches and in the music and speeches, the two crooked lines met crooked in both sense of the words, right? Met in Utah. The wild fraud on the railroads led to more control of railroad finances by bankers who wanted more stability. So they're trying to calm it down here. By 1890s, most of the country's railway mileage was concentrated in 6 huge systems. We still have a lot of railroads. 4 of them were completely or partially controlled by the House of Morgan. 2 others by the bankers Conley of and Mid Company. So this book has actual, historical facts and did some data collection to know how all these numbers work. That's a lot of work as a historian. How many workers? How do you prove it? What's the documentation? You can't just say a number. Right? So this is real history stuff. And you can't have a reputation of a historian if you don't do honest factual collection, and then you're just like a nobody. So it says all these workers, he researched that. Who wants? Let's see. Go ahead. Rob, you want to read next again? Or anybody else? Just let me know.
Yeah, where are we at exactly?
We're still on 180 and we're on, there was a human cost on the right side of the page.
Okay. There was a human cost to the exciting story of financial ingenuity. In the year 1889, records of the Interstate Commerce Commission showed that 22,000 railroad workers were killed or injured. JP Morgan had started before the war. As the son of a banker who began selling stocks for the railroads for good commissions, during the Civil War, he bought 5,000 rifles for $3.50 each from an army arsenal and sold them to a general in the field for $22 each. The rifles were defective and would shoot off the thumbs of the soldiers using them. A congressional committee noted this in the small print of an obscure report, but a federal judge upheld the deal as the fulfillment of a valid legal contract. Morgan had escaped military service in the Civil War by paying $300 to a substitute. So did John D. Rockefeller, Andrew Carnegie, Philip Armour, Jay Gould, and James Mellon. Mellon's father had written to him that a man may be a patriot without risking his own life or sacrificing his own health. There are plenty of lives less valuable.
That kind of shows you the philosophy of some of these, what they call rebel barons. Yeah, your life is more important. And people hired other people to fight in the war for them. And what a crazy way to make money if you survived. Otherwise, whoa, pretty desperate. So we're getting some of the heavy duty players here now. We have JP Morgan. And then down here, Rockefeller, Carnegie, Moore, Gould, and Mellon. Morgan. You still see that name a lot. Morgan and Stanley. These are the early bankers. So this is not the kind of history you read in school. This is a different kind of history. And it's not always popular, but he's a honorable historian. So he did the research and he found out about those rifles and wrote about it. Not everybody wants to hear this. They don't want to hear about what's happened to the poor guy, the little guy. That's what this book is basically about, what's happening to the little guy. Good. So we're going to stop there. Just shows you the intense growth of that period. Now I want to work on our chart, and we'll be using this in the next term after our break, of how we can kind of summarize this intense growth. So let me go into, and I need help with this because it's hard. I'm going to go back in here and add a column so we can put the date. I already titled it. Okay, so let's look on the first page of our document. Go back in there, because we're so technologically savvy. Robber barons and rebels. I'm going to look, and please help me look for some of these changes, these technological innovations, they were calling them. We can just start here. I'm not going to be able to copy. So let's see, steam and electricity replaced human muscle. We'll just start there. It's kind of general. Put the what are we going to call it? We'll call it technology right now. Oh, we did have enough paragraphs. So this is a nice way to organize information sometimes, where you don't want to put it in a paragraph. It's better in a chart. That also implies that you know how to use the chart because they're always changing things. We're a little bit different on Google Docs, but no problem. So what did I say? Human muscle? You know, lots of people moving, you know, they say how the pyramids get built. Some say aliens, some say that there was masses of people dragging stones around, like masses of people. So it was human muscle before all these technological.
They used some very big sticks.
And some very big sticks.
Yeah, to flip the rocks over and all the way to the top.
Oh my God, push them up there. Oh my God, push them up.
Yeah, push them ups.
Someone did a study of like comparing human muscle to like electrical. Like the power, so they'd say like an elevator going up a floor. How much human muscle would that be, you know, if there wasn't electricity? And then they would be like 15 guys, you know, lifting 500 pounds each. And it was a funny study. So what replaced human muscle in our essay? Can you guys, I don't know if anybody's opened that document themselves. Let's look back in.
I will,
Steam and electricity, right? Oh no, where's my document? Steam and electricity, so that's very general. We're not talking about a specific machine yet. And can you give me the date, please? Has anybody got this open in their own version? Did they download the PDF? Can someone do that, please? Who wants to download? Well, you can all do it, but download that PDF onto your own computer, if you're on a computer. Jason, can you do that? You just do that download arrow.
Marianne, which thing is it in the class materials?
Robber barons.
I'm not seeing that on the class materials. You just add it?
Yes, I did just add.
I got it now. I had to reload the page. When I click on it, it says I have to request access.
Ah, right. I'll give you access. Why does it do that?
No, yeah, it just appeared on mine too after I reloaded it.
Okay, I'll go in there. I don't see asking for access yet. Maybe it takes a few minutes to come over.
Well, since it's your document, you wouldn't have to do access.
No, I'm trying to get permission. Oh, here we go. It came over. Thank you. I see Robert's. I can share with him. Why does it want permission sometimes and not other times? That's my question. So you should be able to open it now, but we're getting pretty close. I'll look in our document. Let me know once you've opened that. That'll be helpful. And next class we'll use that your copy if it's on your computer. So when was this steam replacing iron muscle? Let's look back on this document. Second paragraph, please. When did that happen? Well, a lot of history is about dates because you want to know when things happen because it's cause and effect. One thing happened and it was the effect. So you want to know the effect, how things work in time. What's giving us a date here, please?
1900.
Yeah, I think between Civil War and 1900. So let's put that on our chart. Civil War ended in 1865. That's a very good date to know, and we'll do that 1900 like that. I'll bring some list of dates for you guys to know when we get back. Cool, so that's one, human muscle was replaced by steam and electricity, and this happened between 1865 and 1900. Let's get one more up there. Let's look on our document and see. The document. Oh, how about what's next after human muscle? Betty, what's next after human muscle? What else changed? Hello? Anybody? What's next in the paragraph? Speak up. Yeah, iron replacing wood. And steel replaced iron. That both those things happened. Let's put those in real quick. Wood. Iron. And what it, and steel, and then
Iron into steel.
into steel. Steel's a lot stronger, right? And these were both. I'll put this, just meaning yes, the same. So we're gonna have a very nice chart of all the technological changes, and then we're gonna do it in the 21st century. So we'll know what's happening nowadays. Everybody knows that symbol means same, right? So all those things happened between 1865 and 1900. So we will continue with that chart. Please, if you can download that PDF, the rebel barons, that would be really helpful. And I'll put this chart up too on our class materials. So thank you, everybody, for your hard work and concentration. And we'll see you on Wednesday. Great week.